How would you compose a theme for a white mage in Final Fantasy? The ultimate healer is a staple archetype of the franchise. When you think of characters like Rosa from Final Fantasy IV or Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, you expect music that feels holy, pure, and deeply comforting, often relying on ethereal choirs or gentle church organs to represent their divine magic. Princess Garnet till Alexandra 17th is introduced to us wearing the exact classic white mage robe. As the healer of the party, her role is to protect and restore, but beneath that robe lies a heavy burden and a hidden, terrifying power, her true heritage as a summoner. Uematsu didn't just write a simple holy hymn. He wrote a delicate, introspective, and sophisticated melody that captures both her human purity and her royal magic. He had to score a character defined by the Japanese keyword Kenshin, which means devotion, a word implying complete and selfless dedication. Hello, I'm Emiliano Giaquinta, and this is the last of the episodes analyzing Final Fantasy IX characters. Today we will analyze Garnet, the white mage and summoner from Final Fantasy IX. Let's take a look. So, like in every other episode, let's start with her assigned keyword. In this case, it's devotion, or Kenshin in Japanese. This term is incredibly potent, composed of two kanjis, one meaning to offer, and the second one can be interpreted as body or self. This theme musically charts her evolution from a sheltered and uncertain princess into the determined leader Dagger, and finally into a queen who embodies this ideal of devotion to her people. The orchestration Uematsu chose perfectly reflects her dual nature, as a white mage and as a summoner. The full woodwind quartet, flute, oboe, clarinet, and bassoon is used to voice her inner world. Their gentle, lyrical qualities embody her purity and her thoughtful, sometimes uncertain personality, the side of the white mage. In contrast, the theme's magical qualities are represented by its pitch percussion. The main melody is carried by a warm celeste, acting a bit like a glockenspiel, combined with the crystalline sparkle of a triangle and the harp. This is the sound of the summoner princess, a hint of the powerful Eidolons and the royal magic that lies within her. The theme begins with a beautiful atmospheric introduction. A bassoon holds a sustained 8 drone, while a flute and a clarinet pan far left and right, engage in a delicate dance. You can hear the bassoon drone, and on top of that, again, the clarinet and the flute. They trade arpeggios built around the notes of A major and D major, this in a 5-1 relationship. The rhythmic pattern, a series of 8 notes in 3/4 time, creates a subtle tension. The perceived accent lands on the 4th 8th note, displacing the listener's sense of the downbeat. The feeling of gentle imbalance is immediately corrected after 4 measures when the harp enters, playing a clear arpeggio on the downbeat, strongly re-establishing the pulse. So you can see that the 4th beat is accented on the flute and the clarinets. And we have the feeling that the melody doesn't start on beat 1, but a bit later here. So this interesting phrasing gets only stable once we have the rest of the instrumentation. Once the harp, the triangle, and the celeste enter, we have this pulse recovered, because they will signal what's the downbeat, the beat number 1 out of the 3/4 time. The harps repeating ADA pattern initially makes D feel like the 4th chord of A, clearly holding back the true tonic of the piece for a moment longer. A celeste and a triangle reinforce that magical feeling. Let's hear that. With the celeste and the triangle. Together with the rest of the instrumentation. Cool. Before truly moving into section A, the oboe enters, completing the wind section. Adding another arpeggio, it's felt as a textural counter melody. The introduction is lengthy but needed in order to set up the piece core. You can see how adding just one more instrument actually creates a difference in the sound, something new for the ear of the listener. So even though the idea, the motif that the oboe is playing is more or less the same as the other two instruments, it still has an impact. Let's listen to that again. Okay, and then the iconic melody enters. As you can hear, the melody is stated by the celeste and supported by a percussive acoustic bass. You will likely recognize this melody. It is the verse of the game's vocal theme, Melodies of Life. I do have goosebumps already just by listening to it. The accompaniment instrumentation is simplified, leaving just the flute and the clarinet. There's nothing else needed. A strong melody and a strong bass line with a small accompaniment is what makes this piece feel intimate, really showcasing Garnet's emotion. Let's hear a bit more. The harmony becomes fully expanded if you analyze the contrast between the clarinet, the flute, and what we hear from the acoustic bass. We can hear complex chord progressions like D to B minor 7, G major 7 at 9, and also F sharp minor 7. But a key to the theme's unique harmonic richness lies in its brilliant compositional technique. The complex musical tensions, the add 9s and the major 7s, are not necessarily written in the backing chords themselves. They are a beautiful byproduct of the persistent flute and clarinet arpeggios interacting with the underlying harmony. The flute is consistently playing the notes of D major chord, F sharp, A, D. When the bass establishes a simple G major chord, so you put the G major chord and on top the D major chord, you get that constant F sharp from the flute being layered on top, transforming it into a G major 7. That's just one example of how chords are built by the collision of two different motivic ideas. Instead of writing complex chords and fitting a melody to them, Uematsu allows the simple repeating arpeggio to generate sound or harmonic color against the moving bass line. But what makes the melody so good and memorable? Let's hear a bit more. Beautiful, but what makes the melody so good and memorable? As a hint on my video of how to write a good melody, a good guidance is to keep the melody singable. between an octave and just add a few jumps as needed. And that's exactly what we have here. It is mostly stepwise motion, diatonic melody, which starts with a jump, like many melodies, stating a question, and then it plays comfortably in the D major scale, between upper and lower scale degree 5, DA. So it's basically, we have the pitch of D sandwiched between lower A and a higher A. It could also, the music could be also perceived as a Mixolydian A, but yeah, it's simple, and I think that's what lets the melody to be kept in our brains for so long. As we continue the journey of the melody, a very beautiful bass line here. We finally arrive to the section B. The section B features the main melody of Melodies of Life pre-chorus. Tambourines are added, providing our new rhythmic layer, which we can hear here. Very simple, but it supports that we change sections, basically. And let's hear a bit of what that section B is. The second phrase features the song's characteristic downward stepping cadence, B to E minor to D to C major 7, which sounds like this. It's a brief journey outside the key of D that adds a powerful touch of poignancy. Let's hear it in context. I find it so beautiful. The phrase continues, preparing the listener for a return to D that would be the end of the circle. The melody here is still diatonic, with only one accidental in the whole section B, supporting the aforementioned cadence, B. Let's hear to the second part of section B. And suddenly we ran out of song. Here we would be expecting the main choir of Melodies of Life, that melodic part that we hear Garnet sing over and over again during the game. Now, musically, we have another deceptive and delayed resolution. Only knowing Melodies of Life, we would know that we are expecting to go there, right? But the reality is we don't hear the whole song until the end of the game, so for us it's kind of still not 100% connected to the vocal part that is sung by Garnet on the theme. So what we do have here is just a loop back to the beginning. It really feels like a teaser, right? If you play the game, you know the song, you're like, okay, well, but that's not all of it. I want more. But again, from a compositional perspective, you need to imagine it as this theme portrays a part of Garnet, and then her singing part takes care of another part of herself. If you remember, she loses her voice at some point of the game, so it's interesting to see how music reflects these two different sides of her personality, her magical side, her exterior as a as a princess, and her internal side with the power of the Eidolons, and also how she voices out through her voice, which she loses at some point. It's a very beautiful piece, and analyzing it after playing the game and after understanding her whole process, I find it kind of enlightening. Now, before wrapping up, I would like to share interesting fun fact about her vocal motifs. As I shared also my book to call home from Final Fantasy IX Music, the implementation of this vocal arrangement was an incredible feat for PlayStation 1 audio engineering. The vocal phrases were reportedly stored at a super fast tempo, which leads to the typical high-pitched sounding compression. So imagine her voice like running super fast like a cartoon. And there's a reason behind this. They made it so they could save memory. And then when you do the playback, they just slow down the playback, and then that stretched the audio and the pitch became normal again to create the beautiful legato performance we hear. I find it kind of amazing. Now, Garnet's theme is the musical heart of Final Fantasy IX. Its primary function is to represent Garnet's journey from a naive princess to a wise and devoted queen. She begins as a sheltered and uncertain royal, burdened by the expectations of her lineage. But as she steps out into the world and adopts the alias of Dagger, her understanding of Kenshin begins to shift. Devotion is no longer just blind obedience. It becomes an active, selfless offering of her own body and soul to protect her kingdom and her friends. We see this devotion constantly being tested through the story, from the trauma of having her Eidolons extracted, losing her voice, and famously cutting her hair to sever the ties of a painful past. By the end of her arc, she manages to unite her personal feelings with her profound destiny. The theme's constant, gentle forward momentum and its ultimate refusal to fully resolve into the chorus within this instrumental arrangement is a perfect musical metaphor. It is a theme of becoming, not of our rival. When we finally hear the full-throat appearance of Melodies of Life at the end of the game, it really represents her complete evolution into a devoted queen. It is one of the most earned and cathartic moments in the entire series. I do drop a tear every time I hear that. So yeah, very strong ending for the game. Thank you for watching. This is the last episode of the series of Final Fantasy IX characters that I have been analyzing, so let me know in the comments what is the next stage in this channel. Would you like more Final Fantasy content like 7 or 8, or you would like me to go into more modern games like Clair Obscur or even the Persona series? Let me know what you would like to hear next. See you next time.